Welcome to the video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make some melodic techno drums that sound like this. So the drums on their own sound like this. So let's dive into it. So the first element we're going to look at is the kick drum. The kick drum is probably the most important aspect of this genre of music. With a bad kick drum, the whole song's just going to not work because it kind of really relies on like a driving kick drum. So the kick drum in question sounds like this. This kick drum's actually quite a harsh sounding kick, and it's actually quite long as well. You can see the decay of it. You can really hear like the low end on that kick. If I make it really short, doesn't really work. You don't get that kind of like real kind of bass and sub to that kick, which is really important for this genre. In terms of EQ on the kick, I've got two EQs. This one is actually just a low pass, but that gets automated in an intro section. So in the intro, you basically don't have any bass in. So that's actually not doing anything at the minute. The second EQ, I've just scooped out the mids. So if I take that off, felt that was really harsh there. Gets rid of like a lot of the boxiness of the kick. Second element, again, probably the second most important element in this music is the offbeat hi-hat. So this first hi-hat, quite like a harsh sounding hi-hat. In terms of processing, I've got a transient shaper on this. Now what this transient shaper's doing, I've actually brought the attack all the way up. So it actually adds like, kind of exaggerates the transient of the hi-hat. I've also used this release dial to effectively changing the decay of it slightly. So if I take that transient shaper off, it sounds like, and then with it on. Second element I've got is this hi-hat. It's kind of like almost like a tambourine sound. Just got a tiny bit of transient shaping on that, just getting a tiny bit of decay, not much going on. Those together are like. They've also got this kind of like a big sounding shaker. I've got no processing on that at all. So all three of those together sound like, that's like the main offbeat hi-hat that you can hear. So I mean, the song could sound pretty good with just those elements in, but I've added all these extra like hi-hats and percussion loops, which I'll go through now. So the first one I'll show you is this loop. Quite a simple little loop. What I've actually done on here is, before, the drum loop was like this, so there was an offbeat hi-hat in there. That's what it sounded like before, but I've taken that out because I wanted to give space for this main offbeat hi-hat. Again, it's just quite a simple loop, really. Second element I've got as well is this other, like, comes in the 16th note after the offbeat hi-hat, so it's like very subtle. If I take it off, you just get that, and if I put it back in, just kind of quite subtle. On here as well, I've sent it to a reverb, just Valhalla Room. Quite a short reverb, just 1.26 seconds, using this dark chamber mode. Quite simple, just add some like space to the drums. And as we go further down, we've got this like 16th note hi-hat that's just playing every note. I've not done anything with the volume, it's just the same volume all the way through. You can hear it ducking slightly, and that's because I've used LFO tool. So I'm effectively mimicking like a side chain to the kick drum. So what's happening is, when the kick drum plays, it will be in this sort of area. So if I play the kick drum with it, if I take this LFO tool off and put it back on, you can kind of hear it's ducking out slightly. It's very subtle, but it does add a lot to the song. So all the elements I've spoken about at the minute together sound like this. If I take these loops out, this like 16th note one I just mentioned, it's like, and then if I put it in, it's very subtle, but it just adds some kind of like groove to the drum beat. Also got a shaker in here as well. So that shaker on its own is sounding like, again, we've gone for 16th notes. I've got LFO tool on here as well. I'm running it every 16 notes. So I'm just kind of like removing that end tail of the sound. And then with the shaker as well, I've actually gone through and I've just changed the volume of some of them. So we're on -8 there, for example. So I've gone through and done that, changed them around slightly just to give it a more kind of like human element. Other hi-hats we've got in here as well. we've got just a simple little thing. I'll play that with the kick drum. So these hi-hats, it's the same sample, 2 different tracks, and the reason is one is panned hard right and one is panned hard left, just to add some information in like the stereo field. And then I've also got this little like percussion hit as well. That's just playing in sort of like random places basically. It's quite normal in this genre of music. There's lots of like big kind of reverb and delay percussive sounds that happen. So on this sound, we've got a delay, 1/8, quite simple. As the drums come in, we've got these like crash sounds all together. It's like, so these are made up of made this in Serum. So it's just white noise using this envelope to control the filter here, low pass filter. So that's basically like open and then closes as the sound comes down. If you change the envelope, it would be like, I've also got a crash sound in here. So that's like, and then this big like impact sound as the drums come in. Again, very like techno sounding. If I play these with the drums, we're like, and then we've also got this clap sound in here. Very like techno-y. In context of the song, it's like just a very simple clap sound. We've got some EQ on there, just slight boost there, taking out all the lows because we don't need them. And then we've also got a delay on here, so 1/4, very long delay. There's a huge reverb on here as well. So this reverb's about 10 seconds long, just to like fill it out, make it kind of like drone in the background as we go into the next section. And then as the drums progress, we get to a little fill section. What I've done for a bar, I've taken out the kick drum. I've also added in this little like 80s sounding snare roll. Again, just as we build up in the context of the song, it's like, so yeah, that's just a little simple drum fill. Again, just a few effects on there. I've got a transient shaper, add into the transient of the sound. I've also got a slight delay. And again, sent to a small reverb. And then as we come into the next section of the drums, kind of roughly stay the same as the first section. We've just got some other little effects that come in. So we've got this little like, this kind of rim sound that comes in. Again, it's just a sample. What I've done, got this little like triplet effect here. Sounds quite cool. Again, we're sending that to some delay and some reverb. And then in this section, the only difference is we've brought in these rides, this ride loop. Again, just to make the sound more interesting as we go forward, keep it fresh, keep it interesting. And then we also get a clap that comes in, like a snare and a clap. So that will sound like, just on every other beat, basically, pretty standard. And that's how you make some melodic techno drums. So the fundamental elements are basically the kick drum and this offbeat hi-hat, the snare drum, and then these loops. And then from there, as the song progresses, it's just about kind of like adding in these really reverberant percussive elements. So for example, the one I spoke about a minute ago, that only actually features in that part of the song. It doesn't actually come in anywhere else. Again, just to keep it fresh and interesting. So this is what the final drums sound like.